Come on.
You're on.
Here we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, 8 to 10 a.m., Wednesday through Sunday, with our platforms also on Instagram and Twitter. Like, comment, share, and subscribe when possible. Check out our great website, macandjacksports.com, for the Mac Sports Insiders, for information on all the insiders, articles, team public relations updates, and our great sponsors' links for their products and services. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. How you doing today, Jack?
Doing well, Mac. How are you? Good to see Doc as well.
Doing great, and I'm just going to introduce him now, Jack. And joining us for our Saturday show, as he does most times, is Dr. Paul Semendinger from the sports blog Start Spreading the News, also an award-winning author who's our Yankees expert and also a very good analyst in Major League Baseball overall. How you doing today, Doc?
I am doing great. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, too. And just a real quick question to both of you. How were your Christmases yesterday? Can we hear Jack? Jack, did you hit the microphone? Okay, Jack. No, sir. Can you hear him, Doc? No. I don't know what you did, Jack. You hit something over there. Why don't you try going out and coming back in again, Jack, and we'll get you right up, okay? So there you go, Doc. It's just me and you for the beginning here. As soon as Jack
sounds good.
Yeah, as soon as Jack comes up, I'll bring him up again. Doc, in the updates, and this is all sports, and it's brought to you by Fanatics, who was a sponsor of the show. We have a link on our website. You can just click on and go get all your team's apparel, including baseball, Yankees, Mets, Boston Red Sox, whatever team that you like. Hey, Jack, let me add you to the stream.
Now, do you hear me now?
Yes, he's back.
Yes,
I'm not used to being all the way on the right. I like a different view, like a different seat. I'm usually in the middle with three people. I'm like a season ticket holder that's used to a seat, let's say down the first base line. I'm down the third base line. No, just the opposite. I'm down the first base line now.
Yes, you are, Jack. So I was just telling Doc that, about our sports update being sponsored by Fanatics. And just go to the Mac and Jack sports.com website, Max Insiders, click on their link. They have 70% off sales right now for all the great Major League Baseball teams, NFL football teams, all the NBA, any sport that you want. They have hats, gear, anything you want. So check that out when you get a chance. So, Jack and Doc, in the updates, my underdog pick looked good in the first half, Jack, with the Vikings beating the Saints, but they couldn't stop that Saints offense. And Breeze in the second half, and the Saints ran away in the second half and clinched the NFC South.
Just like you, Mac, not to give credit, a man ties an NFL record, and you don't mention it. Alvin Kamara, 6 rushing touchdowns, ties the NFL record, but I'm ticked off. Let me tell you why I'm ticked off. Late in the fourth quarter, Alvin Kamara already has 5 rushing TDs, 1 short of the NFL record. So what does his coach, Sean Payton, do? 4th down on the 1-yard line, he allows the quarterback, Jason Hill, to quarterback sneak for a touchdown. And the record could have been tied then. They just so happened to get the ball back on the turnover. So Alvin Kamara was able to get rushing TD number 6. He would have had 7. He would have broken the NFL record. You know what that would have meant to the guys on his team going forward? For the rest of their lives, they would have had bragging rights. We played in a game when Alvin Kamara, our guy, broke the NFL rushing touchdown record. And imagine the offensive linemen. Everyone would have had a part in it. And what's Sean Payton thinking? 1 touchdown short, 4th and 1, not to give it to Alvin Kamara to tie the record at that point? I'm mad about it.
Jack, I don't get upset about things like that. I'm going to tell you why. It's a team sport. I really don't care about personal records when it comes to football as much as I do, say, baseball, because baseball, of course, is more of an individual sport when it comes to pitching and hitting. In football, it's all about the team. It's good enough that the Saints won. To put that guy in there at that time, maybe he shouldn't have done that. Maybe he should have gave it to Kamara. I don't know. But it really doesn't bother me as much as bothering you right now. I really don't care who scores a touchdown as long as the team wins. So I understand what you're saying, but it didn't bother me as much as it bothered you.
So 2 outs in the last inning, Mac.
Yes.
Guy pitching a perfect game. Manager comes to take him out, and the pitcher says, golly, as long as we won the game, that's all that matters. I couldn't care less about the perfect game. I just want the victory. These records mean a lot to the people, the surrounding people, to the teammates.
Well, as I said, Jack, unlike baseball, which I just said was an individual sport with hitting and pitching more than football is, football, if it wasn't for the offensive line, Al Kamara wouldn't got 1 touchdown. They're not going to get the credit in the record books. Who's going to get the credit?
But the offensive line would have loved to have been a part of that record. He did tie the record.
I do agree with I do agree with you to a point, Jack. I just don't get as upset about it as you are right now. I think it's more the Saints won. They clinched the West. That's the biggest story out of that game to me. So they're going to the playoffs. They have a chance of going to the Super Bowl again. And I guarantee you Kamara would trade in that little record if he could go to the Super Bowl and win it this year. I guarantee you that. So let's get to the few basketball games we had. Big local game. Nets beat the Celtics 123-95, guys. They dominated the Celtics. And whether you like Kyrie Irving or not, he had a great game, and so did Durant, Jack.
I mean, the Nets are going to be tough to beat if they're focused. My concern is they might, for the most part, become a 2-man team with Irving, Durant, taking up the bulk of the offense, because they have a lot of great supporting pieces who I hope don't feel disenfranchised at all because of the dominance that Irving and Durant are showing, not only on the court, but off the court as well. And one of the moves, for example, DeAndre Jordan, who's a buddy of Durant and Irving, he starts. Gerard Allen is actually a better center at this point, and he's coming off the bench. So I kind of wonder the subplot, how that's playing out behind the scenes, whether there's a little discontent. I'm not saying there is, but Jared Allen really should be the guy starting, over DeAndre Jordan at this point in their careers. And that's not happening, I think, out of friendship that Jordan has with Irving and Durant. So let's see, is that going to be a storyline at all going forward?
That's a great point. Doc, do you have a favorite basketball team you follow?
Not really. When you invest so much in the Yankees, there's not much else to give, right?
Right.
Well, he really does. It's the Knicks, but he doesn't want to admit it now. It's in denial. So
I'll tell you, there was a period of time when I really wanted to become a big Knicks fan, and that was in the Patrick Ewing, John Starks era. And I was just becoming a brand new teacher. It was in the early '90s, and all my kids loved the Knicks. So I said, I'm gonna start to enjoy the Knicks, and so I did. I watched them for a few years, and then life moves on, and I lost a little interest.
I don't blame you. Being a Knicks fan is very easy to lose interest in them.
Well, not at that time when you had.
At that time, they were amazing. Yeah,
yes, they were. But right after that, it was all downhill. K.C. Jones, former player and coach, dies at 88. Great player and a great Celtics coach. He lived a full life, and it's a shame to see anybody of that stature go. You know what I mean, guys?
Yeah. I don't know. Can you say great defensive player? Maybe
Yeah,
you want to
yeah,
say it that
yeah,
way,
yeah,
Mac. I'll go
yeah.
along with you. He wasn't much of a scorer at all. In fact, Bob Cousy didn't even think he could make the Celtic roster, that he was so poor on offense.
Right.
But he developed enough skills on offense where to be, semi-respectable
Yeah.
and great defender and more. And he played 9 years in the league, and he was on 8 championship teams. I mean, that's a phenomenal percentage,
Second
phenomenal.
point.
And as a coach, he won an NBA title as an assistant coach, and as a head coach, he won an NBA titles twice. And Larry Bird loved him because Casey wasn't with the X's and the O's. He was just loose and relaxed. So Larry Bird enjoyed his company. He didn't overburden the players with any, with any real strategy. He let them play the game, enjoy the game. And Larry Bird, he was an ideal coach for Larry Bird.
Definitely. And real quick to get Doc's with us for half an hour, so I want to get through these and get to some Yankee stuff here. We also had, let's see, in the rest of the games, the Heat beat 111, beat the Bucks 111-98, 138. Let me see if I'm saying that right. I'm all over the place right now, Jack. I know
Jimmy Butler left the game early, so that makes it extra impressive what the Heat did, beating the New Orleans Pelicans the way they did.
The Los Angeles Lakers easily over Dallas. The Los Angeles Clippers pretty easily out over the Nuggets too. Today games we got Tampa Bay at Detroit, the 49ers at the Cards, and the Miami Dolphins at the Raiders. All games have playoff implications. So we're going to go ahead and get to some Yankee stuff here. And I found some interesting things. I post always in the Yankee fan groups. I have 3 that I post polls in to see what they're thinking about. So we're going to get to the poll here real quick. And let's see if we can bring this up right, guys. Yes, the New York Yankees poll question that we had out there over the week. And this was the situation, guys. I said if there was a ball drove into the center field gap and it was a crucial out, there was 2 outs, the guy had to make a play. There were guys on second and third. Your head, this center fielder has to make the catch. So I gave him the choices of the prior Yankees that would be out there that you would depend on, that you would feel comfortable with making that drive, that catch on that drive. I put up Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Rivers, and Bernie Williams were the 4 choices. And first I'll go to you guys, starting with Doc. Who would you want to have in that position when that ball is drove into the gap, Doc, and you wanted that one center fielder to make that catch in their prime? Who would that be, Doc?
I think in that group I'd have to pick – I'm going to give you 2 answers. One, I think the legend of Joe DiMaggio is that he ran down every ball that was ever hit into the gaps, and he played obviously a bigger center field before they remodeled the stadium. It was the original Yankee Stadium. And so I think I'd say that Joe DiMaggio probably had the most range out of that group. I would have to wonder if, as speed translates and the game translates over the many decades, if Bernie Williams wasn't actually a player who had more range because of his speed. But if I were making that choice, I would pick DiMaggio.
Okay. Jack, who would you go with?
It's funny you mentioned that. What a coincidence, because a couple of days ago, I'm looking at the Major League Baseball Network. I'm channel scanning, and I come upon Don Lawson's Perfect Game. And Mickey Mantle made that type of catch to save the perfect game. It was about the 5th inning or something. I forgot the exact inning, Doc. And Mantle took off. What speed on that play. Like, wow, he sprinted. He didn't just run. Normally an outfielder runs the ball down. He's running hard after the ball. But Mickey Mantle sprinted like he was running the 100-yard dash and took it in. So I mean, I didn't see Joe DiMaggio play really. Based on the legend, the reputation, you'd have to go with him. One of the names that was left out, who you should consider in his prime, he's not thought of as a Yankee, but he was on a Yankee championship team. Paul Blair. Paul
Yes.
Blair would have to. That's the guy I would have said if I didn't have a multiple choice from my era who I could think of. I mean, you got to go with Joe DiMaggio based on reputation. But they said about Joe DiMaggio, he was so great, no one ever saw him die for a ball. I mean, that's
Yes.
hard to believe. I mean, that's how phenomenal he was. So based on reputation and everything and the legend of Joe DiMaggio, of course, how can you pick anyone over Joe DiMaggio just based on that? But if you saw Mickey Mantle on that one play saving Don Lawson's perfect game, that's exactly what you described.
Right. I mean, listen, my personal favorite, because I went to see him play many times, was Mickey Rivers. Enormous amount of speed, ran down everything that game, everything in the gaps, everything over his head. He didn't have a great arm, that's for sure. I wouldn't have picked him, though. I would have probably gone with Joe DiMaggio also, and that was just because the ballpark was, 450 feet at the time? Am I saying it correctly when he played?
I think it was 461.
Okay, so it was a lot bigger park and was a lot more ground to cover. Mantle, I heard, had the best time speed down to first base. That's how fast he was before he got hurt, and that's what I've read before. I think it was like 3.5 seconds or something ridiculous. But I'd have to go with definitely would have to go with Joe DiMaggio too.
Question for you guys: on the current Yankee outfielders, who would you take? Would it be Gotti? Would it be Aaron Hicks? Would it be Aaron Judge to run a ball down like that? The current Yankees. That's a good question.
It's a great question. I think of the current Yankees, I would take Hicks. And you want to talk about looking at the films of a great game, just that game 2 summers ago against the
Minnesota,
Twins.
yeah.
Yeah, when he made that catch, he was running as hard as he could, and he made that dive to cinch the victory. That was just unbelievable.
But I've seen some balls Hicks has missed since then. It hasn't quite gotten to. Let's put it in another way.
That's true. He's a few years younger though than Brett Gardner, who as we speak isn't even a Yankee.
Yes, it's very true. So the poll went, Mantle won easily in the poll, followed by Bernie Williams, DiMaggio, then Rivers. And again, that's a lot. I think that's
they put Bernie Williams ahead of Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, I think a lot of people never saw Joe DiMaggio play, and that's half the reason, Jack. So, but Mickey Mantle trounced everybody in that poll, and just the the Mickey Mantle legend still lives on.
That one play though, I watched it. They didn't have a replay. It was one and done. I mean, the way he ran after that ball in an all-out sprint, to nab it, it was impressive.
Well, like I said, that there was talk, and I read something where Mantle had the fastest time down the first base from home plate. So I guess he was a very fast man. So, folks. Yes, sir. Our Yankees trivia question today, folks, and I'm cheating on this because I'm not just going off regular writings and published articles. I'm going back to a very good book called I got it right here for you, Franchise on the Rise, folks. It's a great book wrote by Donna Moore. Sterling even wrote in it as to on the front page. He got Sterling to sign off on the book. He has a lot of great stories in there about when the Yankees first started. And this is one trivia question. If you don't get it, it's very interesting anyway. So back in 1914, under manager George Stallings, he had a unique way to conduct spring training, if you will. It wasn't the normal way of going out and butting and holding it at a park. He had a unique way to train, especially the younger guys. And I want to see if you have any idea what that unique way was.
I'd be guessing. I wouldn't know what he was. Maybe Doc looks like he knows the answer. I just don't. I mean, if I had to guess, just guess, no evidence at all, no idea. He took them out for rowing. Okay, paddling, moving, their hands. I'm just guessing now. Nothing.
That's a good guess. I mean, that's kind of unique. Doc, do you have any idea or any guess that you would give to this? What would be a very unique way to train, especially the younger players now? This was for the younger players. And if you know anything about George Stallings, it would make a lot of sense to you.
I have to say, I have no idea.
Okay, so what he did with the older players when he got in, he sent the older players to springs out in hot springs in Arkansas to rest their muscles. This was his first step. But with the younger players, he had a plantation down in Georgia. And what he used to do when he lost the plantation, he was buying it back little by little. He sent the players down there to eat healthy food and to get the freshest food. But part of that was they had to do the farm work. So they were hoeing potatoes, shucking corn, moving hay, everything that they needed done on the farm. So as a businessman, not only did he think that this was a good idea for the young players to make them big and strong, but it also helped his plantation.
I do not like the connotations of this at all.
Now, wait, here we go. So there was a former Yankee that that played for the Hartford Senators. And he was, at that time, that was a minor league team for the Yanks. And I'm trying to see if I don't have his name in front of me right now. I wish I did. But he wrote a piece to the Hartford Courant. And he said on this 4,000-acre farm, there are African Americans playing some ball right now. This is back in 1914, guys. And they could use them in their minor league system. So, interesting in all aspects, right? He's trying to save his farm, which he ended up doing, and doing spring training. And they knew, the players that went down there, that there were African Americans playing down there that were just as good, if not better than them. So I thought that was really interesting.
That's fascinating. And you look at great moments lost in history, right?
Right.
And obviously, I knew nothing about this till you just mentioned it. But could you imagine if the Yankees were able, they were the Yankees by 1914. If they were able to think way outside the box and say, "Holy cow, look how many great players there are here. We should bring these guys in and make them part of our organization." The Yankees would have been the trend-setting team decades ahead of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that could have changed baseball. It would have changed baseball forever. Yes. It would have been an amazing move. And it's really, as you tell me, there's a sadness that there was this great moment that was lost.
Yes.
And the thing about it happened, you're talking about 1914. So you're talking about 33 years before Jackie Robinson came to the big leagues. And think had the Yankees brought up any African-American player, you wouldn't have had, more would have followed from the other teams in the obviously 1920s, 30s, and baseball history would have been altered for the better.
Yeah, definitely. So, if you get a shot, guys, if you're Yankee fans out there, check out Franchise on the Rise. It's all about the beginning of the Yankees, from the first owner to, building the stadium, using other people's stadiums before they got their own, all about the characters in the book. And there's some really funny guys way back when that were playing for the Yankees. And also there was a lot of things about them playing in different leagues to make money in the off season, and how the Yankees put a stop to that. So, I mean, there are so many things in this book, if you love history of the Yankees, that you'll never know about unless you read the book. So, and that's why John Sterling went ahead and he kind of gave him an introduction about this book. So it was very good. It's a very good book. Donna Moore works for the Hartford Courant right now. He is, he's a reporter, but of course, the staffs are cut back. I had him on the show once a long time ago. Maybe I'll try and get him back on again. But a Yankee expert and a baseball expert, and a great book. So you get a chance to check it out. So
I will check it out, but I can't read it until we're done with those trivia questions. So,
that might be the last one. Well, maybe I'll get a couple more. There are some characters in there that I might bring up. So it is an excellent book if you love baseball and you love the Yankees. So, Doc, I know you're only here for a short time, another 6 minutes we got you for. Our first debate with Jack, me and Jack are going to debate is hitting the baseball the hardest thing to do in sports? And before you go, I just want to get your opinion on it before me and Jack start going at it here in a minute.
You know, that's what they say. Hitting a round ball with a round bat is the single most difficult thing to do. I think if you look at the statistics, if there was a free throw shooter who was only averaging 3 out of every 10, or if there was a quarterback that only averaged 3 completions out of every 10, or in any sport, and you said like that's the success rate, that mark is the mark of excellence. I think you'd be able to say that is the mark of excellence in baseball, right? You get 3 hits out of every 10. And, you know, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm not a physics professor or anything like that, but the amount of time you have between when the pitcher throws the ball and you have to make up your mind when to swing, it's fractions of a second. And so I would have to say absolutely positively, I can't think of a thing in sports that's harder to do or that has a lower success rate that's considered successful than hitting a baseball successfully.
So without giving up the debate between me and Jack coming up, just a couple questions for you. So skating down the ice, say at 70 miles an hour, controlling a puck, trying to put it in the net with a bunch of people around you and a goalie that takes up the whole net. You don't think that might be a little bit harder than hitting a baseball?
If you're saying scoring, and I'm not a big enough hockey fan to know the statistics, but if you're saying scoring a goal in hockey or getting a hit in baseball, I would say probably scoring a goal in hockey has a lower percentage than getting a base hit in baseball. That's just off the top of my head. So
right.
If that's the measure, hitting a ball or scoring a goal, I would say scoring a goal is probably harder.
So, and again, not to give the debate away because I don't want to say what side Jack took and I took. But how about you're a quarterback and you've got 2 seconds to throw a football accurately in between 2 people going downfield with a 300-pounder coming down on top of you, and as you said, the percentages are definitely higher than hitting the baseball. But would you not consider that maybe a little bit harder than hitting a baseball?
Somehow I don't see that as harder. I see that as more physically taxing and scary. Big giant guy wanted to mush me into the ground, but they're so used to that, and football is so much a game of timing and precision that if that on that play they probably have that. I know they have that drawn up ahead of time, and it's sort of just going through the motions and just doing and blocking everything else out and just running the play. And if you get hit, you get hit. But I don't think the quarterback's really thinking about that as much as, I have 2 seconds to drop back, move to my left, throw the ball, and the guy better be where he is.
Right. Okay. I just wanted your honest answers on this is the kind of stuff that's going to come up during the debate. I know, no matter what side we take. So I wanted to get your views on it before we let you go. It's close to you having to leave now, Doc. So we got another minute. Give us a little rundown about start spreading the news, if you will.
Oh, thank you. You know what? We're killing it. It's a great Yankees blog. We have new content every single day. 4 times a day we put up articles. We also during the week have special features like the baseball card trivia. We put up a tweet every day. Every Thursday we put up an interview with someone involved with baseball. Often we just had Nick Swisher last week. The week before. We have lots of writers, and we do a lot of great stuff. So I encourage everybody to come and check out Start Spreading the News. It's a labor of love. We put out a lot of hard work into this. We have a great staff of writers. We share some perspectives, but there's not a party line or anything like that. So each writer is able to write what he or she feels is their thoughts on the Yankees or baseball at any moment. And yeah, we have a growing fan base that really seems to enjoy the work we do, and we're very proud of the work we do, and we appreciate everybody stopping by.
Well, I'll tell you, it's an excellent blog. I've been there a few times, and it's action-packed with a lot of information. Of course, Dr. Semendinger is also award-winning author for Scattering the Ashes. Check it out on Amazon or anywhere you buy books. Check it out. It's a great story, a great human story with a little bit of sports thrown in there. And it's just a great book. So, Doc, thanks for coming on this week. We hope to see you next week.
Can't wait.
And have a great day. And we'll see you next week, Doc. Thank you.
I can't wait. Thank you, guys.
you,
Have a
Doc.
great day. Have a great week.
So there you go, Dr. Semendinger, with his Saturday visit to us, Jack. He's so knowledgeable when it comes to the Yankees. I mean, you are very knowledgeable with the Yankees, especially the
No,
history.
he's the guy. He's the guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he turned two, but there's nothing really going on right now, and I could sense he has a little frustration waiting for that activity because he's so excited about the off season, the winter meetings, free agency, and then when it's lagging on, you wonder, like, when are we going to get a little bit of action?
I definitely agree with that. Money ruins everything, Jack. It ruins sports, it ruins politics, it ruins everything for everybody. And I just wish
Mac,
sometimes.
I'm like you. I like money, Mac. I like money. You don't like money? Okay, that's fine. It doesn't mean anything to you at all.
It's a necessary evil, Jack.
I like it. If I can get it, I like it.
Yes. So, listen, you got to live with it, right, Jack? You got to make money to survive today, unless you want to go out in the woods and go back to.
No, I don't knock the players and the owners. The owners are running a business. It's sport to us. It's a sport to them, but it's a business to them. It's their business.
Sure.
And the players, I never begrudge a player for trying to make as much as he can. I don't look at it as players being greedy. If you can make more money, who are we to say, well, sign with whatever the team gives you? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone on any job in life, if you're offered an extra 10, 20% more to change jobs, a lot of people would do it. So
I agree with that.
Criticize the
I
athletes.
definitely agree with that. They're pretty much their own contractor that's for hire, just like an actor, just like a singer, just like anybody in business. And I don't begrudge anybody that's out there hustling, making money, or has a talent that people want to see. Of course, they make the money because we want to see that talent. So it's not directly their fault, but money does ruin a lot of things, Jack. Good morning and happy Saturday to Keith Angle. Thanks for tuning in and watching us, our friend over there at TGI Sports. I do have a big announcement to make, Jack, before we start. We are going to be part of a sports network coming up this week, probably starting on Wednesday. It's called Northeast Streaming Sports. This is where we'll be joining a bunch of shows here from the Northeast. We'll have our shows on there, and it'll be great that anybody can go there, watch our show, watch all their shows. And, it's going to be sort of like a network where we can just post our shows and promos, and hopefully we get in there and the network grows, Jack. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
The network was looking, Mac, the network was looking to sign us to a contract, okay?
Yes.
I want to get the most we can get. You're just
I
want to
agree.
settle. Let's just sign it up. I want to negotiate more.
Oh, definitely. It's still not in concrete, Jack, and you definitely are the agent of the show, and I will definitely leave it up to you to make sure we get the most we can. So we're going to start a debate, Jack, and I asked the doc about this because this is going to be our first debate topic, and is hitting a baseball the hardest thing to do in sports? I believe you have no on this, don't you, Jack?
I have no. I mean, listen, hitting a baseball is extremely, extremall hard. You get a pitcher that's throwing in the high 90s, a pitcher with a mean curveball, a mean sinker, a mean breaking ball, a knuckleball, or whatever pitch he's going to throw, and he knows the location he's throwing it at. And also you have the fear factor that the ball could hit you, especially if you're a batter and the ball is thrown near your head one time. It has you to thinking, especially you get beamed with a pitch. You might never be the same again. So, but at some point, someone makes a remark and says, hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. Someone picks up on it, and it catches like wildfire. And then it goes all over the place. And it's a convenient thing to say. Listen, when we were all young, we all played baseball. Just
Right.
about every kid. We all had dreams of going to the major leagues. Mine lasted till I was 17 years old. When it became apparent to me this wasn't going to happen. And I'm glad to say I looked it up late. I Googled it. My last manager who cut me from the team, who didn't feel I had what it took, and I didn't particularly care for the guy, he wound up being a big league scout. So
Wow.
obviously he knew what he was doing, I guess.
That's great. That's
but
a great
the point
story.
is, let's say hypothetically, I was allowed to continue to play. Let's say a team owner's son was, let's say a team owner was my dad. Let's just make believe for a second.
Right.
And they moved me along through the minor leagues into the major leagues. No matter how I performed, eventually I'd get to the major leagues. And let's say I had to face Roger Clemens 100 times, okay? And consider I was playing baseball all the time. I would be able to get 3-4 hits out of 100 times against Roger Clemens. Hit some foul balls, hit a few ground balls, a couple of infield pop-ups. The point I'm trying to make, there are harder things to do than hitting a baseball. Hitting a baseball is terrifically hard. And I'll give you an example. Michael Jordan, NBA player, became a minor leaguer. He had some success hitting the baseball. Tim Tebow hit 273. Minor leaguer, he's able to hit a baseball. Deion Sanders, a football player, hit 300 in the big leagues. 300. Bo Jackson, who used baseball as a hobby more or less at times, he was an all-star caliber player in baseball. Don't get me wrong. Hitting a baseball is terribly hard. And I'm sure when I was in the early 20s, I used Roger Clemens as an example. You put a helmet on me and the bat in my hand, he'd throw a 98-mile-per-hour fastball and the bat wouldn't leave my shoulder. It would come with such velocity, and the fear factor getting hit would have me bailing out. So it's terrifically hard to hit a baseball. So hard to hit a baseball. I understand that. But I'm only comparing it to other sports. Golf is maybe the ultimate skill sport. If you take a young man and have him do both things, work on his golf game or hitting a baseball, he'll have a little more success hitting a baseball, assuming he's a good athlete. Take an outstanding athlete. Outstanding athlete. It's harder to, get down to golf skills than it is making contact with a ball that a pitcher's throwing, no matter how good the pitch is. A soccer goalie, Mac. If we were young men, let's make believe we're 23 years old. They put a bat in our hand. We'd have a little more success making contact with a pitch than we would guarding the goal. Guarding the goal, they hit that ball with the same speed as a pitcher throws a baseball. And we'd have to know to go to our left, our right. In hockey, handling the puck, getting down that skill, pole vaulting, Mac. You'd think, and then if they work with me pole vaulting my whole life, I would be a lousy pole vaulter. Lousy. I'd hardly get any height at all, I think, no matter how much they will work with me. Gymnastics, doing a double, triple somersault or whatever the heck, ice skating, figure skating. The point I'm trying to make, I don't want to hear this nonsense about hitting a baseball being the hardest thing to do in sports. There's so many things to do that are so ridiculously hard, we would never be able to do them. But hitting a baseball, listen, I already did it at a younger level. You did it at a younger level. We've all did it at a younger level. And if we kept playing, we wouldn't do it nearly as well at a higher level. That's why we didn't get to the major leagues. But nevertheless, we would be lousy ball players if they forced us to keep playing. But we would be able to make contact with the ball now and then, unlike the other sports where we wouldn't be able to do anything at all.
Well, Jack, I think this comes down to this, what your definition of a hit is. A hit is not just making contact, Jack. A hit is getting a base hit. And to get a base hit is a lot harder than just making contact with a baseball. You see this here, Jack? This is my baseball. I saved it from when I was a kid in the senior leagues. I had 16 strikeouts in the game. And it was one of the highest strikeout percentages ever in that league. You see how small this thing is? When this thing is coming down at you at 98 miles per hour, as you said, it's almost impossible to hit. And then he's going to throw a breaking ball at you. We call a good hitter, Jack, in baseball, someone who hits around 280. That's not even 3 times getting a base hit out of every time, out of every 100 times he's there. Or I should say 28 times out of every 100 times at bat. Someone who hits over 300. That's only 3 times at every 10 at bats, Jack. Not counting, of course, we can't count the walks. We can't count. A walk is not a hit. A sacrifice bunt is not counted against you as far as your average goes. Neither is a sacrifice fly. Neither is a ground out if you're moving the runner over, if it's called a sacrifice. So they don't even count that against your hitting average. So you can fly out into left field, and if a run scores, you don't get charged towards your average. We consider Pete Rose one of the greatest hitters of all time. He only got to hit a little bit over 3 times every time he was at bat, Jack. And he's a legendary hitter. So these things don't count toward your average. Could you imagine how low your average would be if you counted sacrifices? Because that's not really a hit, Jack. It's an out. There's a hit, and then there's an out. A sacrifice bunt is an out. A fly to left field is an out. Moving the runner over is an out. If you counted all those times, how many times do you think that would count against your average? It would probably be at least another 20 at bats, maybe in some cases 50 at bats. So the averages would plummet right now. Ted Williams, a 400 hitter, Jack. I imagine he had a few sacrifices in his time. He might not even have been really a 400 hitter. These are the rules of baseball, Jack. So you have a 100-mile-an-hour fastball right now, Jack. They're coming barreling down at you. He throws it high inside. You have a split second to duck, a split second before you get hit with that ball. And you get back in there. And then he throws a slider, Jack, coming right at you. At 85 miles an hour, it breaks and sweeps across the plate. And you got to try to decide whether to swing that bat or take a step out in a split second, Jack. I played baseball for 10 years, Jack. I batted over 300. I had some pop in my bat. But 300? 300 isn't really hitting the ball with success. It's just, it's below average, Jack. 500 would be average. There's nobody out there that can hit the baseball 1 out of 2 every time. Then they have a changeup, Jack. After they come back by your head again with another screaming fastball that almost hits you in the head, then they throw a ball at 70 miles an hour and you're swinging your bat before the ball even gets there. So you have a split second, Jack. We're not talking about going down the ice, skating around, trying to find somebody. We're not talking about getting yourself ready to pole ball, as you said, which really isn't a sport, it's a skill. But you have time to wait, get yourself ready, go down there, and then you're ready, you're in the batter's box, and guess what? The pitcher steps off the mound. And now you're going to go through that whole thing again, and you got a split second again to make that decision. Ice skating, you can practice. There's nobody throwing anything at you. I mean, it's not like people are throwing pieces of ice trying to make you trip up. They're not doing that to you right now. In gymnastics, there's nobody trying to knock you off the balance beam. I mean, you have what you train to do. It's your turn. You're competing basically against yourself. So, I mean, I agree with you. There are certain things. Golf, I'm not even going to count golf. Golf, I mean, you don't even have to be in shape to play golf and be good at golf, Jack. I mean, you have to have a good swing and hit the ball, definitely. And the ball's small, too, and it's difficult. You can hook. But compare that to a golf ball being thrown at you at 100 miles an hour and try hitting that, Jack. You ain't going to hit that. So what you say, there are a lot of difficult things in sports that are very difficult to do. But to hit a little small baseball with a barrel that's maybe 6-8 inches in width and radius, and you got to hit that thing. And Randy Johnson is one step away from you coming off the mound and throwing 100 miles an hour. I don't think me or you could do that, Jack, even in our prime.
Matt, if you're a wide receiver and you're cutting the middle, knowing you're going to get creamed, you're going to get flattened.
Yes.
Okay? The fear factor right there is just as great, even greater, because you can't duck. There's nowhere to go. You've got to go for the ball. If you bail out, everyone sees it in the stadium, and everyone is mad at you, your coaches, so on. There's no way of bailing out. Now, you use numbers. I love when people use the numbers. Well, a 300 hitter makes out 7 out of 10 times. They're not successful that way. Well, let me give you an example. Take a pitcher who pitches a complete game. strikes out 10 batters, which is very good, meaning he's on top of his game, double digit, 10 batters he strikes out, pitches a 5-hit shutout. You call that a magnificent performance, okay?
Right.
That means out of the 27 outs, 17 of the outs, they hit the baseball. The 5 hits, they hit the baseball. That's 22 times they hit the baseball as opposed to the 10 strikeouts. And that's not counting the hard foul balls that were hit. I'm just saying, hitting a baseball is extremely hard to do. Extremely. I don't take it light for a second. But I know this, not at this point of life, but when I was younger, I'd have a heck of a lot better chance of hitting a baseball and having a tiny bit of success than I would playing golf, being a wide receiver, cutting the middle, pole vaulting, playing soccer goalie, and so on. And I don't take it light. Hitting a baseball is terribly hard to do. And I get chills just thinking of Randy Johnson pitching, an intimidating pitcher. He could be throwing at your head. Scares the heck out of me, okay, to be up there against him. So batters have to overcome the fear factor. David Wright getting hit in the head, then having to make a comeback. That fear factor psychologically, once you're hit, is awful. I mean, I could say it's harder for a pitcher, the fear of a line drive coming back and hitting him. And it's a miracle pitchers haven't gotten hurt more in the big leagues with the ball getting hit back to them. And that would scare the heck out of me.
Well, I see where we have a big disagreement is what you consider a hit and I consider a hit. Making contact with a baseball, I think anybody could make contact with a baseball.
That's hitting a baseball. Contact is hitting a baseball.
That's not an official hit, Jack. I mean, I could bunt every time I got up there. Now, you would say I got hit every time. That's not a hit, Jack. That's making contact. That's doing the least amount to try to get the ball in the hole. I mean, to me, to hit a baseball, to get a base hit, a double, a triple, a home run is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about going out there and hitting.
Mac, you played football.
Yes.
Did you ever kick?
I drop kicked, but that was I punted.
They tried to make you a field goal kicker.
Right.
What would you have more success at? Hitting a baseball and making 45-yard field goals and being accurate?
I'm not sure, Jack, to tell you the truth. I think if I was really good at it, it would probably be easier to kick that field goal because it's all based off time.
Well, I'm not saying if you're good at it, you could do anything.
Right. I agree. I'm just saying, Jack, you're saying hitting the baseball by making contact with a baseball. That to me is not a hit. That's a pop out.
Deion Sanders, a 300 hitter, because he was an athlete.
And he still only got a base hit 3 times every time he got up. That's still not that good, Jack. I mean, again, I imagine he had some sacrifices and some bunts too, because he was a fast man that weren't recorded as outs. They were recorded as sacrifices. So that 300 batting average is even probably lower than what it should be. If you counted the sacrifice flies, the sacrifice bunt, moving runners over as sacrifices, your batting average would probably even be in the 250s or something, or 200s. I mean, can you imagine somebody like Gary Sanchez and you counted the sacrifice flies against him? He wouldn't be batting 200. He'd be batting like a $120. I mean, it's, to me, hitting, and I mean hitting baseball, Jack. I mean, getting a base hit. That is one of the hardest things to do that I've ever done. And I've played a lot of sports. And even being a quarterback.
Oh, thank you, Mac. You said one of the hardest things to do. I agree.
Yes.
It's one of the hardest things to do in sports.
Jack, I don't know
what the hardest thing is to do, but I'm not just going to say hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do.
That's fair. So, Jack, we'll take our first timeout next, and we'll come out on the other side, and we're going to debate whether the Jets fans should be happy they won. I think I go first there, and I think I'm going to take yes, and you're taking no on that one, Jack, if I'm correct. So we'll be back, folks, with that debate on the other side of our break. Please stay with us and join us, and thank you for being with us right now, and we'll see you on the other side.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
How you doing, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. Join us if you can every day, and we'll give you the best sports updates and information we can. We have a lot of lively shows, Jack. We just had on Dr. Semendinger from Start Spreading the News blog, a great Yankee blog out there. If you folks like the Yankees or just like baseball at all, go there. They have a lot of things going on over there. Great guests. So we'll take a couple minutes here and go over a little bit of business. As I said before, Fanatics is on our website at macandjacksports.com. They are a great store. If you like anything in Major League Baseball as far as uniforms, hats, gear, they have a 70% off right now. We have a link on our website. We also have bstbreaks.com. They're also on our website. They have a lot of cards, signed jerseys, memorabilia. If you're into that, they're one of the best places you can go. If you want to sponsor the Mac and Jack Sports Show, just email me right there at macman.121062@yahoo.com. We have great rates and are available to let you sponsor any of the segments we do or shows that we do. So go ahead and jump on board if you want some advertising. Jack, a little announcement about what's going to be happening on Wednesday or Thursday, I think it's Wednesday right now, if I got the information correct, we'll be joining the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, where we'll be joined by a lot of other different broadcasts and podcasts. Where they're going to try and get 24 hours of broadcasting up on that Facebook page, and on from there. I guess it's a new network they're trying to get up there with Sirius and iHeart. So, we're gonna take a shot and go on there and see what they're all about, Jack, and hopefully it brings us more people and more ratings, and we're glad to be part of something like that. So that's it for the kind of the business out of the way, Jack. We're back to our debate, and the next topic, Jack, and you're a Jets fan by heart, and so you might win this one. Should the Jet fans be happy they won? And I'm going to say yes. Does it hurt their chances of not getting the first pick? Yep. Will Trevor Lawrence turn the Jets into a great team next year? Nope. Have the Jets had a high draft picks in the last 3 years? Yep. Are they a good team? Nope. Did the Bengals improve with Burrows? Hell no. In fact, he got beat up, got injured. He's out. So let's take a look at the most successful quarterbacks and first-round draft picks on the best teams, Jack. Tom Brady and Russell Wilson, they were low-round draft picks, Jack. Becoming Brady is already, and Wilson's on his way to becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the history of football. Rodgers sat behind Favre, Mahomes behind Alex Smith. Again, both solid playoff teams. Jackson on the Ravens, another solid football team. Went to the Super Bowl not too long ago, Jack. Breeze is first with the Chargers, gets hurt. Then he goes to a team under Sean Payton and flourishes. The Jets getting Lawrence means absolutely nothing, Jack. Except you have potentially a good quarterback, maybe a great quarterback. What the Jets need is a good head coach, Jack. A new nucleus, a winning nucleus, like they're building on some of the other teams. A new culture, as they say. A new head coach with a new organized organization, Jack. Starting from the top on down. One player isn't going to do that for you. The Jets went to the championship with average quarterbacks, Jack. If you remember, Sanchez is no Pro Bowler. He's no All-Star. He's nothing like that. But the Jets went to the championship, almost went to the Super Bowl. Vinny Testaverde, another very good quarterback. Old guy, too. He went there, and guess what? They played the Denver Broncos for the championship, almost went to the Super Bowl. So, I don't know, Jack. Richard Todd. There's another one. A very good quarterback, decent quarterback. Maybe not even very good, but the Jets were very successful with Richard Todd. So, the Jets have a draft picks coming because of Adams. And they'd be smart to stockpile more draft picks if they really want to get a winning team together. Make some moves in free agency to get better players and get organized. They need a head coach, Jack. To get a top quarterback without a good offensive line ain't going to help the Jets at all. To get a good offense and not have a good defense ain't going to help the Jets at all. So if the fans are mad about winning a game, thinking that they're going to lose the first-round pick, I think they're foolish. I think that they should think about what it would take right now to get the Jets to be a better place, a better team to play for, a better team where when you do draft a player, he doesn't decide to stay in college an extra year, Jack. You want a successful franchise as a Jets fan. And winning a game, being a true Jets fan, should make you happy as hell.
The last time the Jets had a number one draft pick, there was a quarterback they wanted. They could have had, but that quarterback decided to spend one more year in college. He would have been the number one overall pick in the draft. Plain name Peyton Manning.
Correct.
And as far as the number one pick not being important, as I recall, another Manning was the number one pick after that, Eli Manning, who did pretty well. And, before all that, there was John Elway. There was a controversy what was going to go on with the number one pick. He did pretty well, too. Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. But let me backtrack a little. The day after the Jets beat the Rams, I was feeling good in the sense that my team showed up. They played hard. I had a lot of pride in what they did. A lot of pride in what they did. But when the smoke cleared, I still couldn't be happy with the victory because as Rex Ryan, the former Jet coach, said the next day, the Jets are going to feel this victory for the next 15 years, and they're not going to feel it in a positive way. Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. Now, I've heard the argument with Sam Darnold. Even a great Lance Meadows, who comes on as a guest on our show, who knows more football than I know, he's saying, why are we rushing to judgment on Sam Darnold? Give him a chance. Well, I'll tell you how much of a chance. 3 years already he's been the Jet quarterback. I don't want to hear excuses. Well, he's been hurt. He's had different offensive coordinators. He hasn't had the same head coach the whole time. Excuses, excuses, excuses. 3 years is enough time. If you haven't staked your claim to being the starting quarterback, your franchise quarterback after 3 years, we can't afford to wait for fourth or fifth year, especially if you have a quarterback of the caliber of Trevor Lawrence that comes along about once in a lifetime there for you. Now, Jets might still get Trevor Lawrence with a little bit of luck. I wouldn't count on it now because they beat the Rams. Look, the players did what they had to do. No one wants the players to tank, deliberately lose. I mean, they can't. That's a crime. They played hard. They won. I was numb when they won the game. As soon as the game ended, I'm there, they pulled a massive upset. You want to cheer for them, but you realize there are repercussions. Let me tell you something, too. How come fans don't complain when a player can score a touchdown late in the game, but he falls down so he'll give his team a chance to run out the clock? Okay? If the player scores a touchdown, they get mad at him. Todd Gurley did it earlier this year for the Falcons. He scored a touchdown, and he left time on the clock for the Detroit Lions to take the ball down the field and score a touchdown and win the game. Had Todd Gurley fell down before scoring the touchdown, Matthew Stafford then could have taken the knees, and I'm not Matthew Stafford, I mean Matt Ryan could have taken knees for the Atlanta Falcons and run the clock out. The same thing happened in the Super Bowl. The Giants scored a touchdown and they left New England a little time on the clock, but fortunately, worked out for the Giants. Listen, Trevor Lawrence would be the most exciting thing to hit New York, at least New York football, since Joe Willie Namath came along. He would fire up the Jet fan base. The Jet brand needs a boost. The Jets are somewhat popular around New York only because they're a New York team. Around the league, who cares about the Jets? You don't see the Jets in the national games, the talk of the NFL at all. And it was a costly win. I mean, Jet fans took a lot of pride in them beating the Rams. But were Jet fans truly happy about it? The answer would be no.
I'll say a few things to what you just said. First of all, you said excuses. There are excuses, Jack, and then there are reasons. When you don't have an offensive line, when you don't have wide receivers, when your defense is average to below average, what do you want that one man to do? What do you want the quarterback to do, Jack? He can't block. He can't catch his own football, and he can't go out on defense and tackle the running back or cover the wide receiver. You're putting way too much emphasis on the quarterback, Jack. Trevor Lawrence, we don't know if he's going to be a generational NFL player. We know he's a generational college football player. And there are a lot of generational college football players, Jack, that never made it in professional football. And that we know just by the names I could throw at you, and you already know the names. So I'm not going to waste my time doing that. Rex Ryan, you're going to quote Rex Ryan, really? A big blowhard that just does things to get attention? That's who you're going to quote? A guy who who had a quarterback named Mark Sanchez? That was his pick? That's who you're going to quote, really. The Jets had a great defense and a great running game. That's why the Jets won the championship. That had nothing to do with Mark Sanchez, but they almost went to the Super Bowl. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, listen, I don't care if the offensive line sucks. I don't care if the defense couldn't tackle your grandmother if you had one. I don't care about that. I want Trevor Lawrence. That's why you're upset. That's foolish, Jack. You got to get a new head. You should want a new head coach, a new coaching staff, possibly a new GM, and possibly new owners. If you want to be happy about something, if you got a new coach in there right now that was a proven winner, Jack, I think the Jets fan base would be very excited about that. I think they would be as excited as getting Trevor Lawrence. That shiny object in the room, Jack, does not make that team. It doesn't make them better. It may be great for publicity in the beginning, but that doesn't make the team better. So to really get the Jet fans fired up, you've got to get somebody in there that's a proven winner, whether he's a defensive coordinator, a great special teams coach, and I don't care who it is. Get Adam Gase the heck out of there. Get yourself a real organized head coach that can take control of your team, that knows how to game manage, that knows how to get his coordinators and coaches together, and start teaching the Jets how to win football games again. Joe Willie Namath isn't the reason why the Jets won the Super Bowl either, and you know that as well as I do. And Joe Willie Namath, if you put his stats up against the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, his stats aren't as good as theirs, Jack. He was a very popular man, made a very bold prediction. That's what he's remembered by. The Jets had an awesome running game and an awesome defense that year, Jack, and you know that as well as I do. So Joe Willie Namath, without the Jets, wasn't that good. With the Jets, he was good. Richard Todd was good. Vinny Testaverde was good. Well, even Mark Sanchez was okay, even with the butt fumble and all. To waste all your time on a first-round draft pick that is not going to do nothing for the team for at least 3 years, possibly get hurt, and not build your team from the line up is, to me, crazy.
Mac, it's been over 50 years since the Jets have went to the Super Bowl, let alone have won it. If you want to get a high-profile coach come here and he sees Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback, it increases the chances. I mean, when coaches have more than one option, they're looking at what the best situation is for them. Some people don't want to take a job if the situation isn't good, if it's doomed for failure. As far as draft choices go, you have those extra draft choices from the Jamal Adams deal. You have 2 number ones there. Sam Darnold would then be traded. You could get a late number 1 draft choice there. Conceivably, very conceivably. Okay, so you could use those for the other positions, obviously. So I don't go for that excuse. You have a lot of needs. You have a lot of needs. It starts with the quarterback.
It starts with the offensive line, Jack. It starts with the offensive line, Jack. It doesn't start with the quarterback. I don't care who your quarterback is. If you don't have a good offensive line, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to have a running game. The quarterback's not going to have time to throw the ball, and you're not going to go anywhere.
Let me tell you something.
All right, you had Burrow, who was supposed to be a generational quarterback. This was the best quarterback, the highest rated quarterback in college history, coming into Cincinnati.
You say it starts with the offensive line. When they had that controversy with John Elway, and the Baltimore Colts traded him away to the Denver Broncos.
Right.
Part of the deal was the Denver Broncos traded back 3 players. One of them was Chuck Hinton, an offensive tackle.
Right.
Hinton made 7 Pro Bowls. But do you think they got equal value to John Elway? Absolutely not. One was a great quarterback and the other was a great offensive lineman. Go with the great quarterback.
Bill
Parcells regrets taking Jake Long, an offensive lineman, over Matt Ryan in the draft. If he had to do it over again, he said he would have taken Matt Ryan.
You could talk to any coach and they'll regret. You can talk to any coach and they would regret some moves they made in the past, Jack. But you can't argue with success. And something else too, Jack. To me, if you continue having people like Adam Gase and you continue firing head coaches and bringing in new coaching staffs, the Jets are never going to go anywhere. They've got to change that first before they worry about Trevor Lawrence, before they worry about anybody. They have got to get that organization organized. It's not even an organization. They should call
There's a
it
lot they have to do. I
That's
agree
true.
with you
And-
100%.
And Trevor Lawrence is not going to change that, Jack. In fact, it may affect Trevor Lawrence. He may not come out. He may not even want to play for the Jets. I mean, it would be more embarrassing for the Jets to begin with. I say this, Jack. Take your if you do get that pick with Trevor Lawrence, take that and trade that for 3 first-rounders. On 3 first-rounders and a player if you can, and get yourself a good quarterback and start building that offense and defensive line, and get a good head coach, and then the Jets will start turning the corner. Until then, you're just playing with shiny objects in the room, Jack.
Do you feel Sam Darnold needs more time to develop?
I
feel
feel Sam Darnold on a good team would play well. Yeah, I don't think I don't think he's going to be one of the greatest of all time. Is he sound? Will he be good? Yes. Will he be great? Maybe not. I don't know. We'd have to see. But I don't know that Trevor Lawrence would be great in the NFL either, Jack. I don't know that for sure. I haven't seen him play yet in the NFL. So, I mean, I listen, I feel bad for the Jets, but don't go for that shiny object, Jack. Don't go for the shiny object in the room. Take care of what has to be taken care of. Without a good foundation, Jack, the house comes falling down. I don't care how beautiful your kitchen
The
is.
house is collapsed on the Jets already.
Yes,
Got
they
to
have.
get rebuilt. It's collapsed.
So we turn our attention to somebody you mentioned before, and you gave a stat about him that's very misleading. Tim Tebow, will he ever make it in the major leagues, Jack? And I think you're going to say yes to this.
Absolutely, he will. No doubt about it. Tim Tebow will be a major leaguer. Now, put a little asterisk next to what I'm saying.
Okay.
They have September call-ups,
Right.
where they can expand the roster. He will be a September call-up at the very least, okay? No matter how he performs this season, how it's going to be conducted, the minor leagues, I don't know. Recently, Sandy Alderson said they want Tebow to come back. They want him. They're welcoming him back. So read between the lines. Tim Tebow's great for minor league ticket sales.
Sure.
He's great for the Mets' image, for their brand. Everyone loves Tim Tebow. He's popular. I went to minor league games in Florida to watch Tim Tebow play. The fans love him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even myself, I come to the game, I see the lineup posted. I see Michael Conforto, Robinson Cano, Jeff McNeil, Tim Tebow. Who excites me the most? Tim Tebow. I go, wow, Tebow's playing. And the fans are into it. They're cheering when he's up. They don't even boo the guy when he messes up. They don't even boo him. He's immune from being booed. Listen, he did hit 273 one minor league year.
Yeah.
And he made an all-star team. Maybe that's overrated. But at least it shows he's not incompetent. Last year was awful. He hit something like 160, went backwards. But last year, things were out of whack. He didn't have a full season to give him a chance to straighten out. And the organization, the Mets owe him. They owe him for what he's done for their minor league affiliate, playing. He's meant a lot for attendance, an awful lot for attendance on road games as well. He's conducted himself great. They have owed it to Tim Tebow for taking 2-3 years out of his life to pursue this dream. So what the Mets are going to do at some point, unless Tim Tebow surprises us and earns it on his own, naturally is outstanding in the minors where they call him up before September where he could truly contribute. Let's say he can't. They'll call him up in the September, get him in a couple of games when the score's 4 or 5 runs either way where they could afford to slip him in there and reward him for his effort and let him be with the team, the 3 weeks and get in a couple of games. That'll be their thank you to him. So he will make the major leagues, one way or another, worst case scenario, as a September call-up.
The only way he'll make the Mets, Jack, major leagues, if he's an announcer, Jack. That's the only way he's making that Mets organization. So you think it's okay to thank him for his popularity, to bring him up over somebody else who's out there playing better in the minor leagues than him. So we're going to reward Tim Tebow for his popularity. We're going to say, okay, Tim, we don't care if you bat 163, that you can't hit the ball, but we like you. And we appreciate you just being on the team. Isn't that just beautiful? That really sets a great example for the Mets and the Mets fans about, who they want. Listen, Jack, I did a show previous with a Met fan. He absolutely despised having Tebow on his team. Is Tim Tebow draw 100%? Yes, that's why he's on the minors for the Mets to begin with. He may be the greatest college football player in the history, Jack, of college football. He was given the College Football Player of the Year of the Decade, award by Sports Illustrated. The man is a tremendous athlete. He's a heck of a leader. He's a heck of a runner. He's tough as they come. He's very spiritual, Jack. But after a brief NFL career, he signed a contract with the Mets, and this is his stat so far. Okay, in his first year, in 194, he batted 194 in 70 plate appearances. In 2016, he batted 222. The following year, 231, and then he went up to, as you said, to 273.
He kept improving all the time.
Yes, he did. He did until last year, Jack, when he went back and batted 163. Now, he might have had a lot of stress. I don't know. Maybe he was going around, talking to sports about college football, being a broadcaster. I don't know what it was. He's one of those guys, that we find out that he's a great, great athlete, but can't do the hardest thing in sports, Jack. The baseball. See, it comes right back to the first debate. I love it. He can't do it, Jack. So if you're going to reward people for just being popular, if that's what we're going to do, like they did, remember when you were in high school, Jack, right? You had the popular kids, and everybody wanted to hang out with the popular kids. And the popular kids, they had their own clique and they had their own thing. Tim Tebow is not that. Tim Tebow is a popular person because he's just a nice guy. He's a great guy. He's in tremendous shape. He's a good-looking young man. I mean, the women love him. The guys think he's awesome as far as his build and his athleticism. But he's not a baseball player, Jack. He was a football player. Now, I wish Tim Tebow maybe tried out for linebacker. Maybe he would have been good there. I don't know. As a quarterback, he didn't make it. And as a baseball player, especially for the Mets, Jack, talk about an organization that wants a winner really bad. I mean, if he went to a real good organization like the Dodgers and they called him up just for kicks, for giggles, that would be fun. I mean, that would be great. Let him go out there, and as the Dodgers are destroying another team and they're up by 30 games during the season, let him play a couple of games, see what he does. But when you're talking about another New York organization that's starving to be in the playoffs, starving to be in the World Series again, bringing up Tim Tebow is not such a good idea, Jack.
Let me tell you something. The wind is swirling around Citi Field late September. The Mets are out of it. It's cold, it's chilly, but it's Tim Tebow making his debut.
Right.
Attendance is going to soar. People are going to show up who normally wouldn't show up. It means money. As far as that other player complaining about Tim Tebow, whoever it was, I forgot. I read something about that a while ago. That player meant virtually nothing unless someone in his family showed up for the game and had to pay for the ticket. He didn't contribute anything financially. Fans show up for Tebow. He's meant dollars for the Mets. The Mets want to reward him for his time in the minor leagues. They're not going to let him. They're not going to let his minor league career end without at least saying thank you and calling him up in September and getting him into a couple of games. At least Tim Tebow could say, look, I was called up by the Mets. I was a major leaguer. They want him to be able to say that. And if they don't do that, if the Mets don't do that, you know what it means? They would have used Tim Tebow.
Well, yes.
They would have used him just for his marketability to make some money. And they don't want that. That would be bad for the Met image. Okay? They want to do the right thing. Sandy Alderson would not have said Tim Tebow is going to be welcome to come back. You know how he would have handled it? He would have talked to Tim Tebow quietly on the side, say, Tim, I don't know, is this really going to work out? Thank you for everything, and that's that. But instead, Sandy Alderson says, we're welcoming him back because last season was an aberration because of COVID.
Jack, if you want to reward him, give him a raise, give him more money, and let the minor league team
He's
flourish.
not doing this for the money, Tim
No,
Tebow.
let me tell you,
He's not going to sign a multi-million-dollar deal later.
well, maybe for minor league they will. Maybe because of the attendance, that's how they could thank him. We have a minor league baseball team out here called the Hartford Yard Goats, Jack, and them stadium is packed all the time. And you don't want to know why? Because it's family friendly. You can have picnics. You can get involved in a lot of different family affairs. So a minor league team is trying to make any amount of money to draw fans in whatever gimmick they used. I'm not calling Tim Tebow a gimmick, but it's pretty close, Jack. I mean, Tim Tebow, just to go see Tim Tebow, just to get his autograph, just to say you had a photo taken with Tim Tebow. I mean, that is almost a gimmick to me, Jack, because as a Major League Baseball player, hitting even 273 in the minors, I don't have his RBIs and stuff in front of me, but even getting that one decent year in doesn't make him a major leaguer.
By the way, the year before last, Mac, the year before last, when I saw Tim Tebow play that minor league game in Florida, he got 2 hits.
Well, there you go.
One of them was a laser line drive, over shortstop's head.
Right.
So, there's some talent there. He's not that bad.
There was a lot of talent there in football too, Jack, but he couldn't do it. Tim Tebow, I take nothing away from Tim Tebow. I mean, like I said, he could be one of the greatest college football players of all time. And he's a hell of an athlete, a great guy. I mean, I would love to just spend some time and talk to the man like almost everybody else in the country. The thing I'm saying, Jack, if the Mets are serious about building a team, and you got a new owner there who they expect him to do big things, make some big free agent signings. He's got a new GM in there who's supposed to be crafty, know what he's doing, supposed to help build that team up, make them a World Series contender. Tim Tebow is not in that discussion of making them a World Series team contender, Jack. He's in there to give the Mets maybe another 10,000 people in the fans, if any fans can go there.
Yeah, okay, but he will be called up. But the question is, will he become a major leaguer?
Right.
And at some point he will.
No,
With
I
the
don't know,
Mets. And I think if COVID isn't too much a distraction and they can have a normal schedule this year, if the minor leagues can resume like normal and we have a normal season, Tim Tebow will become a major leaguer this year, and then he'll retire.
Well, they had a shot. Listen, they had a shot to call him last year, Jack. He could have been on the expanded
No, we
squad.
had COVID. They didn't have a shot to call him. No, he wasn't good enough to make the opening.
Right.
I understand that.
Right.
But he will be a September call-up this year unless he surprises us and the minor league games resume and he really develops and comes along nicely. Then they might call him mid-year. Listen, they might call him up during the season. He might say, look, guys, I'm going to retire soon, so-and-so. And they might call him up even in June and say, look, you'll come to the team for a few games. We want you to experience being a major league. And they'll get him in a game. And then it's like, goodbye, thank you, and case closed. But he will be a major league.
And you think Tim Tebow would be happy with just being called up to get a shot at hitting the ball once? You really think that would make him happy?
If he knows he's going to retire, he would accept that and be grateful. Yeah.
I don't know, Jack. I don't know. This is
a guy who kicked around the NFL after the Broncos. He got cut from teams. He went to the Jets. He feels Rex Ryan lied to him or wasn't honest with him.
Yeah.
He got cut by the Patriots and he got cut by the Eagles.
Right.
You might say, do you think Tim Tebow would have too much pride to keep getting cut like that? To be bidding for a third-string quarterback job, but he did.
Now, you know something, Jack? I've talked about Tim Tebow a lot in the NFL, and was his throwing motion the best? No. Was his technique the best? No. But a lot of quarterbacks that have been somewhat successful didn't have great technique or throwing motion. But Tim Tebow did add the extra aspect of the run, and I think maybe Tim Tebow was not used correctly in a couple circumstances, and he could at least, if the team kind of built around his running style, like he was in college, like he did show a little bit in the NFL. To me, very similar to Cam Newton. Cam Newton maybe a little bit better, but I mean, I think some team could have really done something with Tim.
Well, Cam Newton was a lot better than Tim Tebow.
I agree. I agree.
Cam Newton was a former league MVP.
Well, exactly, and he was in college. He was great too. So I mean, there was It's that to be said, but I think he could have had a legitimate shot at starting on some team anyway. But enough about Tim Tebow right now. Great guy. I'd love to get him in the show and interview him. It would definitely increase our ratings, that's for sure.
There you go. You would have him. You'd put him ahead of other more worthy guests because
Not
of
at all.
the lot of our ratings.
Not at all. Not at all. I would treat him exactly the same way I treat my other guests, Jack. How dare you? We're going to go on. Our next debate, Jack, is the greatest wrestler in history. You trapped me into this. I really, I haven't been watching wrestling in years. And, I go way back. I think do I go first? I think I go first. So I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm going to take The Undertaker, Jack, and this is with very skepticism because as I was a kid growing up, of course, I did watch wrestling, probably like every kid did. And I followed, Bruno Sammartino, the Chief Strongbow, George the Animal Steel. These were I first started watching wrestling. And I'll tell you, by the way, George the Animal Steel probably would have won a lot more matches if he didn't take time out to eat the foam out of the padding. Because I think he was winning when he was doing that, and of course he lost because he was just hungry and he was just it was funny as heck. That was my grandfather's favorite wrestler. I could I watched a little bit when Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, all those guys were popular. I followed it a little bit, but I'm taking the Undertaker and started in wrestling back. A lot of different names he had before he became very popular. In 1986, he started, Jack. He was 6'10", 309 pounds, and trained by a guy named Buzz Sawyer. His famous finishing move was the tombstone pile driver, where he turned the guy upside down and slammed him almost through the ring floor. He might have been, and I'll go on a limb and say he was, Jack. It was probably the greatest show in wrestling history. The casket, being dead for 2 years for a while, having sightings of him. You can't kill a dead guy. I mean, being buried alive. His younger half-brother, Kane, the crazy man running around. He's the minister of death. I mean, he had the whole get-up and, coming out with that eerie music, and the pallbearer was there. Listen, he retired in 2020, named one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. WWE Hall of Famer Jim Ross, former company executive, stated The Undertaker is the greatest big man in history in wrestling. The Guinness Book of World Records has him in, Jack. He recognized him as having the most consecutive victories in 2016. Personally, him having won the most the most victories, as I said, in 2016. He personally has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, Jack, so he is somewhat of an athlete. If you talk about wrestling, how can you not, how can you beat a guy that can't die? I mean, there is no wrestler or no person alive that can beat somebody like that. So, listen, I think it's a great entertainment. I don't follow it like I used to. I think The Undertaker I've seen a couple times on TV. And, but for real wrestling, there's a couple other people I would choose. But just for the show, for his little niche he had there, his little gimmick, I'm going with the Undertaker, Jack.
Growing up, I was a big wrestling fan. And as a wrestling fan, as an adult, my two oldest daughters, coincidentally, we were sitting in front of the TV set scanning one day when one of them was really young. And I kept asking, what channel does she want me to stop at? And there were a couple of clowns in the ring during a wrestling match, and she asked me to stop. And it used to be a tradition. Every, week, the first hour wrestling 8 to 9, I tell my two oldest daughters, girls, wrestling's on. They'd run down, they'd sit with me. And then because of my connections through boxing, I was able to get them backstage during the big shows, at the Nassau Coliseum, the Garden. And then The Undertaker was this mythical character.
Right.
People thought he was born, that he didn't come out of his mother. He came out from the ground. That's how he was born. That's what people believe. And even one of my daughters sees the door open to the dressing room. She says, Dad, look, The Undertaker, he's drinking coffee. Awesome. Like the man actually could drink coffee.
Right.
Okay? And the Undertaker, look, he had his choke slam. He was a giant. He would lift the guy up with one hand and then drop him down his choke slam. And we like the charismatic wrestlers the most. There was Hulk Hogan. I mean, he would be a great pick.
Sure.
Andre the Giant. Okay, Stone Cold Steve Austin
Yes.
with his signature move, the stunner.
Yeah.
The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. I mean, Bret the Hitman Hart. But to me, I like to go back into my childhood. And there was one wrestler who was the Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Wilt Chamberlain. When you had those great little circle of athletes, Gordie Howe during that time, was Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah.
Okay? Guys like, you would remember him, Mac, guys like myself, of course, the older generation. I don't know, does the younger generation comprehend how great he is, okay? He was what Muhammad Ali was, coming up, so on. Bruno Sammartino was the WWF. That's what it was called then, not WWE. WWF World Champion from 1963 through 1971. And again, 1973 through 1977. Excuse me. It's from Abruzzi, Italy. He was a matinee idol. The physique on this guy, this is before steroids. He was built. That's when pumping iron would be completely responsible for your physique. That and having the right genes, of course. Bruno Sammartino was considered the good guy, the hero. And I remember the announcer, Ray Morgan, was the wrestling announcer. He would be announcing a match between a villain and a good guy, and the villain would win the match. It would be over, and the villain would be stomping on the good guy for no good reason at all. The match was over. And then Ray Morgan would say, in comes Bruno Sammartino. Sammartino would be charging in from the locker room because he was like the hero type. Yeah. And he would get in there, and maybe the villain's manager would hit Sammartino over the head with a chair, and then they would run away. And Sammartino says, Mr. Morgan, they're going to pay for this in their blood, And he was just so charismatic, such a matinee idol. He had two signature moves. The bear hug. He'd grab him in a bear hug, or the backbreaker. He'd place the opponent on his back, and they would submit. Those would be his two signature moves. He wasn't on steroids, Bruno Sammartino. He had this great athleticism, and the big talk at the time was who would win a mixed match between Cassius Clay / Muhammad Ali. He was called Cassius Clay by a lot of people at the time, or Bruno Sammartino. And he was so charismatic. He was such a hero. Okay, I know we had others that came along later, like Hulk Hogan and his thing. But Sammartino performed better, in the ring, even though it was choreographed. Let's be honest about it, but it doesn't mean they're not. The wrestlers are phenomenal athletes.
Definitely.
I don't care whatever. Listen, gymnastics is choreographed. You know exactly the move that they're going to make. Figure skating is choreographed. It doesn't make them any less great athletes.
So good.
Sammartino, just a phenomenal athlete. To me, he's like, if we're talking about who the greatest position player is of all time, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to say Mike Trout, maybe name a couple of others. Guys like you and I, Mac, will always like to say Willie Mays. It's hard to surpass a Willie Mays, no matter what. And that was really Bruno Sammartino, what he meant to the WWF.
Yeah, I used to go over my grandfather's house, and my grandfather was a huge Mets fan, Jets fan, and he loved wrestling. That man had wrestling on TV every time it came on. And he'd just sit there and he'd watch it. And, I mean, he kind of the one that got me into watching, Bruno Sammartino, Chief Jay Strongbow, and the older ones, the Russian, the hot, all these guys that really were the pioneers of wrestling. And there's no doubt Sammartino was a tremendous athlete. I think he actually wrestled in college or high school or whatever it was. He had a lot of moves and was built to the hilt, like you say. And yeah, he was quite an athlete. And if you didn't take him, I sure would have, Jack. So, but I'm
You're
happy.
going to take another. We're going to take in Hulk Hogan. How would you argue with Hulk Hogan? Andre the Giant.
Yes,
How would you argue with Andre the Giant or Hulk Hogan?
Definitely.
You know, you got The Rock, you got Bret the Hitman Hart, Cold Stone Steve, or John Cena.
Sure.
On and on. And I'll tell you, Mac, we might be onto something here. Maybe we should talk more wrestling and see will the wrestling fans boost the ratings.
Well,
because they complain they don't get enough wrestling on these talk shows.
Yeah, they don't get enough love, but they do have podcasts out there that do extremely well that talk just about wrestling. So, yeah, there is a big market out there for it. So, pushing on to our next debate, Jack, we have which team will beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we're not saying could. We're going to say the Kansas City Chiefs are going to lose a game in the playoffs. And what team is going to do that to them, Jack?
First off, the Kansas City Chiefs are not going to lose a game, but for debate's purposes, Matt, I can't. I think the Chiefs are going all the way. The team most likely to beat them.
Good possibility.
Can we? Well, let's put it that way. The team most likely to beat them. I think it is.
We're going to say just for suppose and just as
okay. My fault. I wasn't listening to you.
Because who's likely? Who could beat them? That could be any team, Jack. On any day they could win. Right. I want your best team. That if Kansas City win again,
you're correct. I didn't answer it clearly. You presented it clearly to me, so let me answer clearly. Let's say the Buffalo Bills, okay? And there's several reasons. I mean, the Buffalo Bills are playing very well now. They got it together. Their defense went into the year as an outstanding defense. And then they slumped a little, but now they have it together. Early in the year, the Bills actually lost to Kansas City 26-17. They made mistakes. I can argue the Chiefs haven't improved since then. They're the same team, but the Bills have improved a lot. The Bills also have maybe the most underrated coach in the NFL in Sean McDermott. I mean, I don't give him enough love normally. I rave about Brian Flores within his division, the coach of the Miami Dolphins, but I don't talk about what a great coach Sean McDermott is. Maybe because I'm waiting for him to win a playoff game. Okay, the Bills have been there, but let's see if they win a playoff game. And once they win the first playoff game, then they run into Kansas City, perhaps in the AFC Championship game, and they'll really be psyched to the hilt having momentum going. Also, the Bills' quarterback, Josh Allen, his maturity, he's come a long way at quarterback. He's only improving. And they have a lot of upside. And last but not least, the Bills would have to play Kansas City in the AFC Championship game if it happens. Kansas City might have terribly cold weather. Guess what? The Bills are in a West Coast team. They're not coming from warm weather. They practice in the cold in Buffalo. So the weather's not going to affect them the way it would other teams who would play the Chiefs. So I give the Bills the best chance of all the AFC teams to dethrone the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good pick, Jack. Josh Allen with his run pass threat could give them problems, and it would just be being able to match KC. So this is my first pick, Jack, and I'm looking at this just from like a football coaching standpoint, what you would have to do to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And the two things that you would have to do is first, you would have to be able to run the ball really well and control the clock and take away Kansas City's offense chance of scoring points. You would need a decent passing game that can strike with big plays to receivers, good tight ends that could pick up them third down conversions. And there's not a better running back duo in the league than the Cleveland Browns have, or a better running game than the Cleveland Browns have with Chubbs and Hunt, Jack. I mean, they're both powerful. They're both explosive. They both can rip off a touchdown run from anywhere on the field. They're tough. They can catch the ball. And their offensive line is really built for that run. I had my doubts coming in this year about Baker. I didn't know if Baker was really going to make it. Baker Mayfield seems to have grown and gotten a more, I don't want to say confident, but more comfortable being the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. He's great off play action. He's not a super athlete, but he moves around the pocket pretty well. He's got a pair of great receivers to strike when Kansas City strikes if he has to. And he's got some really great tight ends, Jack, that can make them, those drive, continuing first down plays to keep eating that clock off. I think it's very important that you got to keep that offense off the field as much as possible. But when they do get the ball, you've got to be able to slow them down. More plays, Jack, means more mistakes. If you're going to just let it give up bombs over the middle, that's not enough plays. You're going to score that big 50-yard pass or whatever. You got to keep them in long drives as well as you. You have to make them run the ball. You have to make them take the shorter pass. And you have to get a little pressure on Patrick Mahomes. The defensive line of the Browns can put pressure on a quarterback. Now, I think there's one more kind of matchup problem for Kansas City, and I think it's special teams, because the Browns' special teams is very underrated. Overall, Jack, I agree with you. I mean, what we said in the beginning, Kansas City is the odds-on favorite. But that doesn't mean that they're going to win the Super Bowl, that they'll go to the Super Bowl. What we're looking at is a team that has certain matchup problems that Kansas City would have problems with. I don't think the Ravens are that team. I think they'll key on Jackson and make him throw the ball, which hasn't played too well for Jackson this year. I think Tennessee is not there. They're better last year than they were this year. The Colts, I just don't have faith in Rivers in a big game. He's never won a big game, even with the Chargers, with great teams. And I think the Colts are a great team. I just don't have faith in him to make them plays at the end of the game or to throw with Mahomes. Their running game in the Colts is great too. Their defense is good too. That might be another team that might have a shot at them. But KC definitely is odds-on favorite. And I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns as the team who may end up playing them right away too, Jack, being a wild card. We'll see.
If the Browns lose to the Jets tomorrow, I wonder what you'll have to say about that.
That, Jack, I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to make out of my Rams, who I picked to go to the Super Bowl. They lost to the Jets, and they better beat Seattle for me to, regain faith in them.
It's one of it's one of those things where every great team, Jack, normally has a bad game. It doesn't look like KC's really going to have that, but even Super Bowl teams will get skunked once in a while for some reason. Either team gets up.
I could see KC slipping up these next two games that they're playing. Actually, they play the Falcons at home.
Right,
10.5 point favorites. They play them tomorrow. I can actually see the Falcons winning that game.
It's a possibility.
I can see that happening, because the Chiefs, just to do for that little blip, it's hard to get up for each game in the NFL, and
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what Andy Reid does, because right now he can afford to lose a game and still get home field advantage. Does he?
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be a big question. So, Jack, we'll take our last official timeout. We'll be back on the other side with another debate, and also our segment on who's better. What the great Jack Hirsch will tell you from experience and knowledge who's better in the choices that I will give them. So we'll be right back, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying I'm asking to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show as we get down to our last stretch check of today's great debate show. I always have fun debating you. A lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and it's hard to win these debates against you, Jack. I mean, you're just...
Well, we have no one who actually scores them. They're like it was in boxing. A lot of years ago, they had things called newspaper decisions because they didn't have official judges. So you look at a lot of the old timers records, you don't know who really won the fight. You try to get newspaper clips, but nothing's ever official.
So folks, we're on from 8 to 10 a.m. Wednesday through Sunday. We have shows every day, 5 days a week for you to come in and take a look at us and listen to us. And we try to give you the best entertainment we can. We bring in our weekly guests and some of the biggest names in sports, which I'm working on right now. Jack, we got our last debate coming up, and it's about the best ballpark to see a game at. And you kind of went different than what I expected, but it's pretty cool. I'm glad you picked that because it does add a little bit of spice to the debate. And who's going up first? Is it you or me this time, Jack? I think it's you because I went with the last wrestling debate.
Yeah, that used to drive me crazy until recent years, how stupid the NFL coaches, when I'll underline the word stupid, they'd have a choice of getting the ball first to start a game or to defer, and they'd always want the ball first.
Right.
You know, I mean, it never made sense to me at all, and finally the coaches woke up and became smarter, and they always defer because they like the ball to begin the second half first, because psychologically it's much better. Okay, sure. Mac, we talk about ballparks. I got that out of my system. Okay, but the whole idea of going to the ballpark is for what? To have fun.
Sure.
That's what makes baseball, having fun. Okay? First and foremost, there's nothing more fun than going to minor league games. Okay? You go. I mean, I love Yankee Stadium. I love Citi Field. I went to the ballpark in Philadelphia a couple of years ago. We took a ride down there. You know, I went with my son-in-law, his dad, and his brother. We had a lot of fun seeing the new ballpark in Philadelphia, but there's nothing like going to a minor league game, even though the stakes aren't as high. And if you want to go to a minor league ballpark, MCU Field, the home of the Brooklyn Cyclones. It's located in Coney Island Amusement Park. It only seats a little over 7,000 people, a couple of thousand more with standing room. They make it fun. There's a playground in the outfield behind the bleachers. Tickets are cheap. Parking is easy. And you have Coney Island Amusement Park. You park your car before you go into the ballpark. A block and a half away, the equivalent of a short walk, a couple of minutes, I should say. You have the world's famous Nathan's. You could get your dinner at Nathan's. You could spend an evening in the Coney Island Amusement Park. You're right off the boardwalk. It's a night game. You see the firework display. A ton of fun going to the park. You're going to a ball game in an amusement park, basically. Tickets are cheap. If you take public transportation, it's right by the D train you get off. If you take your car, you're right near the Belt Parkway. And it's just so much fun to go to a game at MCU Park because you're going really to Coney Island Amusement Park, more or less, catching a ball game and other things. I mean, it's great for kids. Yeah. Minor league games are so much more fan-friendly, you know, when you go to MCU Park than it is to Yankee Stadium or any big ballpark. Any big ballpark you go to, even though it's great going to a major league game, it's great. You better get there early, otherwise parking is going to be rough. It takes an hour and a half to get out of the parking lot or whatever amount of time. Unlike MCU Park, where you're getting out of there, you know, immediately. So that's my pick, you know. I have the most fun when I go to a minor league game.
You know, I can't argue with that at all. I mean, I agree with you. Minor leagues are a lot better for kids, and they're a lot less expensive where you can bring your family. And it's great for kids to get introduced to baseball that way. And I definitely agree with you that the minor league ballparks. I've never been to one in Coney Island. I can't wait one day. I'm definitely.
Yeah, you should get there if you can, Mac.
Maybe we'll meet up and take a game, Jack. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be a blast. That would be a blast. I went with Fenway Park, and it's just based off history. You know, you had the Polo Grounds. You know, you had Ebbets Field, and you had Fenway Park, and it's still around. I went there. That was the first ballpark I ever went to, Jack. I got to admit, sometimes because of the pillars that are in the stadium, sometimes you don't have great view of the game. I mean, you can get stuck where your view is obstructed.
You're talking Fenway Park?
Yes, sir. And you know, I was lucky to get a ticket behind the Yankees dugout, and I got a baseball signed by all the Yankees, and they were very good with me. And you know, we actually had a ground ball hit right over we had to duck to get out of the way. But the park itself is history, Jack. It's all about baseball. It's how baseball started. Ruth played there. I mean, Ted Williams, the greatest Red Sox players in the history of baseball, played there, and they played against some of the greatest teams in baseball. I think that, you know, when you go to a ballpark, you can feel the aura of the place. I went to Yankee Stadium, Jack, and honestly, you know, down deep, I'm a Yankee fan, but honestly, it wasn't the same feeling as being in Fenway Park.
Fenway is smaller, so it's more cozy. You could use that argument.
And the shops are around it, and you can get great food. You can stop in there and see the sights of Boston, Boston's an incredible city. So, I mean, just for the history standpoint alone, you know, I wish the Polo Grounds was still open. I wish Ebbets Field was still around. I wish the old Yankee Stadium was still around, Jack. I mean, to me, that's what baseball is all about. It's probably the most historical game in the United States. And just sitting there and watching some of the great players. The Yankees weren't that good then, but the Red Sox were. And just watching the game, being out there on the field, looking at that green monster, you know, they still change the innings the old-fashioned way. They actually there's somebody working inside the Green Monster. I guess there's a bathroom in there because one of the outfielders decided to use it during the game. I guess one time, if I'm correct. And now they put seats above the Green Monster, Jack. They've expanded somewhat, and you can actually sit on top of the Green Monster and have a table and chairs and eat and drink and watch the game from the legendary Green Monster. I've seen a lot of balls hit off that by Carl Yastrzemski and by some great Yankees. Lucky Dent hit that 3-run home run to beat them and go into the and eventually win the World Series. It just means to me that's old baseball. That's the beginning of baseball, and to me, there's no other park like it in the league. But I definitely can't disagree with a minor league ballpark either, Jack. So there you go, Jack. I've left Jack speechless, and that's
listen. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm not going to Fenway Park wearing my Yankee cap. I don't think it's going to be too much fun. But I've been to Fenway Park before. It's a great ballpark. But when you talk about MCU Park, you're in Coney Island Amusement Park, so it's fun. You could go before the game, after the game, enjoy the amusement park, go on the world famous Coney Island boardwalk, and of course the Nathan's hot dogs are right there. If you want to get a bite to eat before or after the game,
can't beat it, Jack, at all. Yeah. So we come to our last segment of the show, Jack, and that's where I ask you historically and even modern matchup of who's better, Jack, and we do this. We do this for fun and just out of experience from what you know of sports and everything. I try to test your knowledge of history and today's sports, Jack. The first question I have for you currently this year, who's better, Jackson or Kyler Murray?
Oh, well, this year Kyler Murray's been better. Lamar Jackson has struggled. Who's going to be better going forward? I'd have to give an edge to Kyler Murray because he's on an upswing getting better. It doesn't mean Lamar Jackson's going to not be a good NFL quarterback because last game he played very well. This season, Kyler Murray has been better, if that's the question. There's no doubt about that.
Who would you give the edge to, just to follow up on it, as far as a passer goes? Would you give that to Murray or would you give that to Jackson?
Kyler Murray. I mean, Lamar Jackson's best weapon is still with his feet, even though Kyler Murray runs a lot. It does it when he has to. You get the feeling Kyler Murray is a little more of a pass-first guy instinctively who runs when he has to. Lamar Jackson instinctively likes to run more, and even though he makes the effort to pass, he's going to take off a little sooner than Kyler Murray will. Okay, and who can blame him when you can run the way Lamar Jackson does?
You're 100% right there. From the great quarterback class, Jack, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, or Big Ben?
Wow, I've thought about that a lot. Phillip Rivers cursed that his team never went to a Super Bowl. Eli Manning waged those two great comebacks for the Giants against the Patriots for 2 Super Bowl wins. Ben Roethlisberger also has 2 Super Bowl wins. He's actually gone to 3. He lost 1. You'd have to say Big Ben. If a team could draft all over again, all 3 of them, I think Roethlisberger would get the edge. I'm talking about independent teams who had nothing to do with the 3 of them. It's close. Listen, Eli has those 2 Super Bowls. If he didn't, he might slip into 3rd, actually. All 3 are Hall of Famers.
Definitely.
But Ben Roethlisberger is the best of that class. Maybe not by a lot, but he is.
Barbara Streisand or Judy Garland, Jack?
I know my wife loves Judy Garland because she loved The Wizard of Oz. And, wow, I mean, Barbara Streisand had that longevity, like we talk about athletes. Judy Garland was sensational during the time she was in there. I'll give an edge to Barbara Streisand, but maybe, it might have to be reconsidered upon further review.
Okay.
All right, when we go to the replay, I might have to overturn it.
Okay, sounds good, Jack.
Yeah.
Aaron Boone or Joe Girardi, Jack?
Oh, Joe Girardi. I mean, listen, no, Aaron Boone has been great, but listen, he took over a team ready to win. I'm one who thinks Aaron Boone's done a good job, and he's the right guy to manage the Yankees. That's my opinion. So no knock on Aaron Boone. And if you look at the record, a couple of 100-win seasons to start. Last year they struggled a bit, but look, they did win a playoff series before going down to Tampa Bay, in a decisive final game. But Joe Girardi's just masterful in everything he's done. And he has a World Series win to his credit. Let's see Aaron Boone get to the World Series first.
So this probably be our last one, Jack. Billy Martin or Earl Weaver, Jack?
Billy Martin. Billy Martin. Listen, Earl Weaver was great. Earl Weaver allowed the game to come to him. He believed in the long ball, like I do, actually. You know, my philosophy is more along the lines of Earl Weaver. But wherever Billy Martin went, they won. He went to the Oakland Athletics, who were big losers, and turned them into winners.
The Tigers too, Jack. So it's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Twins.
Yes, the Twins.
Yeah.
So, Jack, tomorrow we have our big football show where we have Anthony Servino and we have Robert Butler coming in as our weekly guests. We'll break down all the games. We'll talk almost everything about football on that show. Thank you guys for joining us today. Hope your Christmas was great. And we'll see you tomorrow here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show.
3 NFL games today. It's NFL Saturday.
There you go.